You already know what a Komodo dragon looks like. You've seen it on a remote Indonesian island in a nature documentary, dragging its bulk across volcanic rock, looking almost too slow and too prehistoric to be a serious threat. Maybe you've seen the footage of one taking down a water buffalo and assume that's a one in a million event, the exception rather than the rule. You think you understand them. A giant lizard? Sluggish? A leftover from an older world? More curiosity than threat. That impression survives almost exactly until you learn what's actually happening inside its mouth. Because here's what most people are never told. The Komodo dragon does not need to overpower its prey in a single decisive strike. It has evolved something rarer and, in a specific sense, more disturbing. A bite that doesn't need to kill immediately because what it delivers afterward will finish the job regardless of whether the victim manages to escape. It is the largest lizard alive today, and it has turned waiting itself into a weapon. To understand the Komodo dragon, you first need to understand where it comes from and how isolated that environment really is. Komodo dragons exist naturally on only a handful of small Indonesian islands: Komodo, Rinca, Flores, and a few smaller surrounding islands. A tiny, isolated range for an animal of this size. That isolation matters enormously. On islands without large competing predators, the Komodo dragon evolved with essentially no ceiling on its own size, becoming, over time, the dominant predator of its entire ecosystem by simple absence of competition. An adult Komodo dragon can reach up to 3 meters in length and weigh as much as 90 kilograms. It is, without qualification, the largest living lizard species on Earth. And unlike most reptiles its size, it is an active, capable hunter rather than a purely opportunistic scavenger. Though it is also a remarkably effective scavenger, capable of detecting carrion from over 8 kilometers away using a forked tongue that samples the air the way a snake's does, feeding chemical information directly to a specialized sensory organ in the roof of its mouth. This means a Komodo dragon is simultaneously one of the best equipped hunters on its island, and one of the best equipped scavengers, giving it almost no scenario in which a meal, once it exists anywhere nearby, goes undetected for long. Now, look at what happens when that detection turns into an actual attack. For decades, the prevailing scientific explanation for why Komodo dragon bites were so consistently lethal centered on bacteria. The idea that the dragon's mouth harbored such a dense population of pathogenic bacteria from its diet of rotting carrion that any bite would reliably trigger fatal blood poisoning in survivors who escape the initial attack. Research published in 2009 by a team that conducted detailed imaging and dissection of Komodo dragon skulls revealed something the bacteria theory hadn't fully accounted for. Dedicated venom glands, located in the lower jaw, producing a cocktail of toxins with measurable physiological effects, preventing blood from clotting, dropping blood pressure rapidly, and inducing shock in bite victims. This means a Komodo dragon's bite is now understood by researchers as a combined mechanism: serrated, shark-like teeth that tear flesh and create significant blood loss on contact, paired with venom delivered directly into the wound that prevents that bleeding from stopping. Bacterial infection from the bite remains a real secondary risk on top of all of this, but the venom alone is sufficient to explain why dragon bites have proven so difficult for prey to survive, even when the prey successfully escapes the initial physical attack. The Komodo dragon does not need to kill its prey on the spot. It only needs to get one solid bite in. After that, it can simply follow. This hunting strategy is what makes the Komodo dragon genuinely unlike most other large predators, and it's worth understanding in detail. A Komodo dragon hunting large prey, a deer, a wild boar, a water buffalo many times its own size, frequently does not attempt to make a single fatal strike. It delivers one significant bite, then withdraws and waits, sometimes tracking the wounded animal at a distance for hours or even days, using its powerful sense of smell to follow blood and the buildup of toxins working through the prey's system. Eventually, blood loss, shock, or secondary infection brings the animal down on its own, at which point the dragon, sometimes joined by other dragons drawn in by the same scent trail, moves in to feed. This is a fundamentally different model of predation than the explosive, immediate kill most large predators rely on. It requires patience measured in hours and days rather than seconds, and it requires almost nothing from the dragon in terms of risk during the waiting period. The dragon has already done the dangerous part. Everything after the bite is simply collection. Researchers studying Komodo dragon hunting behavior have documented exactly this pattern with water buffalo. Animals that can weigh well over 10 times what an adult dragon does, brought down not through overwhelming force, but through a single bite and the unstoppable physiological cascade that follows it. Komodo dragons have also been confirmed in multiple well-documented incidents to kill and attack humans directly. Not simply theoretical risk, but a recorded recurring pattern specific to the small human population living on and around Komodo Island itself. Park rangers and local villagers on Komodo and the surrounding islands have experienced fatal and near-fatal attacks across multiple documented decades, including cases of dragons entering village areas and attacking residents, sometimes children in or near their own homes. Indonesian wildlife officials and park authorities maintain ongoing safety protocols specifically because of this confirmed risk. Visitors to Komodo National Park are required to remain with armed park rangers carrying long forked sticks, specifically designed for redirecting a dragon strike, precisely because unguided encounters have resulted in serious injury and death. This is a detail that separates the Komodo dragon from many other large predators discussed in similar contexts. It is not simply capable of harming humans in rare accidental encounters. It has an established, recurring, documented history of treating humans within its range as potential prey, serious enough that an entire national park's safety infrastructure is built specifically around managing that risk for both tourists and the people who live there permanently. The cannibalism within the species adds another layer entirely, and it shapes the entire life cycle of every Komodo dragon born. Adult Komodo dragons regularly prey on juveniles of their own species, to the point where young dragons have evolved a specific survival strategy almost entirely built around avoiding their own parents and other adults. They spend much of their early life in trees, a habitat adult dragons, heavier, less agile climbers, cannot easily follow them into. Some researchers studying juvenile Komodo dragon behavior have even found young dragons rolling in the intestinal contents of dead animals, apparently to mask their own scent and make themselves less detectable to adult dragons that might otherwise hunt them. This means every adult Komodo dragon alive today survived not just the island's other predators in an ecosystem with very few, but the literal adults of its own species actively hunting it during the most vulnerable years of its life. The species' aggression isn't selectively turned off for its own young. It is, if anything, one of the most significant threats a juvenile dragon will ever face. Here is what is true and what the evidence actually supports. The Komodo dragon is not malicious in any sense that requires intent as humans understand it. It is an animal that evolved on a small, isolated set of islands with little competition into the most efficient possible version of a patient ambush predator. One that doesn't need overwhelming force in the moment of attack because its biology has built in a way to win the fight afterward, regardless of what its prey does next. It is the largest lizard on the planet. It carries a bite that combines mechanical injury with genuine venom. It can track a wounded animal for days using nothing but scent. And on the handful of small islands it calls home, it has a confirmed, documented history of treating the humans who share that space with it exactly the same way. Respect the distance the park rangers insist on. Respect the forked stick they carry. Respect an animal that has turned patience itself into one of the most effective hunting strategies anything has ever evolved. It doesn't need to catch you immediately, it only needs you to bleed.